Hello, my name's Al and today I'm going to show you how to replace your integrated headset. So the headset on your bike is what allows you to steer. We've done videos before showing how to maintain and service your headset, but if things have got really bad, you might need to fit a new one. With a modern headset design, as you have on pretty much all bikes these days, then it's a pretty quick and easy job that you can do at home. First thing you're going to need to get right is choosing the correct headset. Now, in this day and age, it's one of the trickiest parts because there's so many different headset types out there. So check your specifications and make sure you order the right one. You're not going to need many tools to do this job. You're going to need some Allen keys, possibly some Torx keys, depending on the way that your stem attaches to the bike. If you have a split crown race, you can remove it easily using a flat bladed screwdriver. If your crown race isn't split, then it's going to be trickier. You might need some specialist tools, or I can show you ways that you can do it at home. Some paper towel to clean up and some grease to grease your new headset. So first of all, we're going to remove our front wheel, undo the quick release and back the nut off slightly. And with our brake released, you can just drop the wheel straight out. Next, we're going to release the cable from our brake so it doesn't interfere with removing the fork. Screw the pinch bolt back into the brake so you don't lose it. With the cable detached from the brake, we can now remove the fork to get access to the headset. Next, we need to undo our stem clamp. Now it's this that secures the stem and the whole steering mechanism of the front of your bike. Undo that bolt fully, and then we have our preload bolt on the top of the fork, which we need to undo. That won't be tight. Its sole job is to compress the headset and preload the bearings. It's worth holding onto the fork at this point because with this removed and the stem undone, then there's nothing really to stop the fork falling out other than friction. Remove any spacers and the top cap and the bolt. Then we can remove the stem. Remove any more spacers that you may have. And with a bit of a push, the fork should come out the head tube of the bike. Now we can remove the various parts of the headset. So we have this top cover here. We have the split wedge and the upper bearing. We should just pull out of the head tube. So this is an integrated headset that we're dealing with here. And the lower bearing, which will either be in the bottom of the head tube or it will still be on the fork sitting on the crown race. So that's all the components removed from the head tube. We also need to remove the crown race from the fork. This is a split crown race, so we can remove it very easily. Just get a small screwdriver, put it in the split in the crown race, twist it apart and pull it up. That should be enough to free it from the fork. If you don't have a split crown race on your fork, then what you're going to need to do is basically remove it with a bit more force. You can use a punch and a hammer if you've got access to the bottom of the crown race, so you can literally knock it off up the steerer tube. If you can't gain access to it like that, you can use something thin like an old knife and hammer that in behind the crown race, and that will give you some purchase to knock it off. If you're struggling or you think you might damage the fork, then take it to your local bike shop because there are proper crown race removers, which they should have, which they should be able to remove your crown race without causing any damage. With all of the headset removed, we now need to clean everything before we install the new headset. Clean the steerer and the crown race seat of the fork. If you get any grit stuck here, then it's quite possible that you might get some creaking noises further down the line. So do our best to eradicate those. And clean the head tube, get rid of any grime or old grease that's sitting in there, and we're ready to fit our new headset. Installation is simply a reversal of removal. So grab your crown race. You don't need any grease on this, and simply push it into place until it stops on the seat. When we fit our bearings, as long as you've got a metal seat inside your frame, so if you've got a metal frame, alloy, steel, or you've got a carbon frame with metal inserts, then it's a good idea to put a layer of grease on the outside of the headset bearings before you fit them. It'll just help prevent any corrosion. Just pop them into place. It's the bottom one. Grease the upper bearing too. Pop that into the head tube. Bit of grease on the split ring, which sits in next. And then we've got our top cover here. We don't want any grease to get onto the steerer tube of the fork if it's carbon, because this can cause it to swell. Now you're ready to reinstall your fork. Just make sure the cables are orientated correctly. Insert the steerer through the head tube. Refit any spaces that you had beneath your stem. Then the stem, and any spaces that you had above the stem. Bear in mind that it's just friction holding that in again, so quickly grab your preload cap and bolt and spin that into place, and that will prevent it from falling out of the frame. Next, we're going to fit the wheel and reinstall the brake cable. Make sure your cable isn't frayed before you screw the pinch bolt into place. If you're not sure on how to set up your brake, we have covered this in a previous video. With that all reinstalled, we can set up the headset. Whilst everything is loose, it's a good time to align everything. Make sure your logos are all lined up. And we're just nipping up the preload bolt here. This is compressing the headset bearings, making sure that there's no play in the steering. So don't over tighten it. It's not holding your stem in place or preventing your fork from falling out whilst you're riding. That's all done with the stem clamp. So just nip it up enough that you've removed any play from the steering. If it feels too tight, then either something's gone in wrong, perhaps it's upside down, bearing in the wrong way, something like that, or you've over tightened the preload bolt. So just nip it up. Next, you want to line your stem up with your front wheel. You might find it easier to do that on the ground, but once that's done, we can tighten the stem itself. It's not essential, but we would recommend the use of a torque wrench for this job. With the stem aligned and properly torqued, we're all done. Before you ride, just do a few quick checks. Give the front wheel a good bang on the floor to make sure there's no play in the headset. That'll help to bed anything in if you perhaps haven't located the crown race properly on the steerer. And try and rock the bars back and forth to feel for any play. If it all feels solid, there's no rattles, then should all be good. Check that your front wheel is in there securely, your quick release is done up good and tight, and recheck that front brake. Give it a few good hard pulls to make sure the cable's not going to pull through. And that's it. All done, new headset fitted, all feeling nice, ready to go out, hit the road. Thanks for watching, see you next time.